Good morning, boys. It's your boy Gsluke here with our round 3 live stream for the Farmers. It was a late night last night. Was watching the DP World Tour until 4 in the morning, so mistake on my part. Definitely running on fumes, but we got a coffee in our left hand. A lot of you out there probably still waking up yourselves. Maybe not so much here at 10 a.m. I'm a little bit of a late riser. I guess I can afford to do so given my schedule and whatnot. But hopefully everyone out there is having a great start to their Friday. And obviously, hopefully we can get this weekend started off to a bang. Yesterday, at least from the cut perspective, a lot of my guys got through a few stinkers, which you're going to have every single week. So, your typical cut line sweat yesterday. In terms of prize picks, I had a lot of near misses. And then on underdog, I went for all the glory yesterday. I didn't insure any of my slips. It went 4 of 5 on 3 of them. So, it was a little annoying, especially Xander. He made like a 40-footer on the last hole. Actually, it was like a 30-footer on the last hole to screw one of those cards. So I was a little bit annoyed at the prop side, but a heck of an event, right? John Rahm getting himself back into the at least verge of contention. A lot of this top-end guys like a Homa are like, 6-7 shots back. Definitely within striking distance how difficult this course is. So expecting a lot of just entertainment and a lot of movement on the leaderboard today. So we'll talk through the course. We'll go through our, showdown picks, our prize picks, props, as we always do here with these live streams. And welcome on in, everybody. We got Clay down there. What's going on? He had a bunch of Willie Z. Yeah, a bunch of people did. I guess he's really the only guy up top that missed the cut this week. What's going on, Nick? He says he doesn't like me, but he's still here. Hey, glad to have you, Nick, and RIP Willie Z. That's all I'll say, Nick. Mary says, let's fucking go Thigala round 3. I agree. I'm all over Thigala today. What's going on? You win? Hopefully sipping on your coffee there as well. I got to get a Dunkin' sponsorship here at some point. I'm always drinking their coffee on stream. It's just, there's a coffee shop right next to my house. I can literally walk to the Dunkin'. So I love their coffee too. So, hey, if they want to give me free coffee for these live streams and, I'll product place it. I'll do the whole 9 yards if they want to go there. I'm all about. But hopefully everybody, again, waking up here on a Friday morning. What's going on, Tyler? What's going on, Adam? I got Smart Life Essentials, Swisher Roll. What's going on, Mr. Space Lee? And I love myself a few Swisher Sweets as well. So let's get into this. Golf course modeling, all that sort of fun stuff here for Friday's round 3, which just feels weird every time I say it. Right, we're of course one day ahead because of the early Wednesday start, but the golf course played pretty much as I expected. I mean, we knew it was going to play about 4 shots harder. Ended up playing 3.5 shots harder in reality. And even over at the North Course, went from playing about 2.2 shots under par to 1.2 shots over. So a similar kind of split. Both golf courses were almost equally affected. But of course, if you were looking to try and take some of the ceiling performances, well, outside of a Sam Ryder, a majority of them came on the North Course. In fact, of your top, what is this, like the top 7 scores or something like that, one of them came on the South Course. Of course, that was Sam Ryder, who is just playing a different golf course at this point, and then all North Course guys. So obviously, we're not really worried about the North Course now that we're on to round 3 showdown, and everyone's going to be playing the same course, the South Course. But I thought that was at least worth exploring and showing you guys just as a review of yesterday's slate. The South Course is going to play a lot more like Monday than it did yesterday. So, I mean, looking back at round 2 stats, probably not the most helpful, given that the winds are going to be a lot lower. So let me go ahead and actually refresh this here. Let's see. Okay. So, yeah, for Friday, they're still calling for essentially no wind, 1 to 6, 7 miles an hour of sustained winds and wind gusts that are non-existent. It's just going to be that steady, gentle breeze the entire day, which is the perfect set of conditions for players. If there's a little bit of differential there, if you're getting some, gusty winds where it'll go from like 2-3 miles an hour up to like 7 to 8, that can actually be a little bit tricky. I mean, that's what you usually see out there for your normal weather day. But when it's just flat, calm little breezes like they're projecting for right now, there's no variability. There's no volatility when it comes to the strength of that wind, which makes it extremely predictable for these players. So I'm expecting conditions to be ideal here for Saturday. On top of that, there's no precipitation in the forecast. The temperatures are a little bit lower. I will say that it's only going to be like 54, 52 degrees Fahrenheit for most of Friday here. So perhaps the ball not traveling as long as players are used to there. But what we should really more focus on is going to be the moving day aspect. So Let me go ahead, bring up the pin sheet here, and a few things to consider when it comes to moving day. Let me get my sip of coffee here. Again, it's early in the morning, but I start talking about golf. We get energized real quickly. Don't even need coffee, honestly, but the coffee's a little extra jolt, of course. Alrighty, so moving day. You're usually going to get risk reward pins. So over the first 2 days, right, there was only one setup for the first 2 days. There were really no middle pins. I mean, outside of, I think, hole number 16, most of the pins were at least relatively tucked, right? They were like 6, 7 paces off the side. You're going to get a few for here on Friday that are like 3 off the edge, 4, 3 off the edge, etc. But most of these locations, when I went through the shot tracker yesterday, were in bowl locations. Torrey Pines is known for its slope. It's kind of like a Memorial Park Golf Club and Augusta National, albeit just a little bit less extreme, where you have a lot of slopes where you can work the ball into certain locations. And with this sort of setup that we typically see on a Saturday, right? It's, Friday this time around because of the early start. They want pins that when you hit a good shot, you're rewarded. They give you that bowl location where if you work it off of that slope, you can hit it to like 2-3 feet at sometimes. Sometimes you can actually make the shot for an eagle, for example. But when you miss that bowl, you're heavily penalized because all of the slopes run to that pin location, which seems great, right? Except when you're trying to hit an around the green shot, a chip shot, right? That adds exceptional difficulty to those shots. So what you end up seeing here on Saturday are a few players that really take it low, that have their ball striking, that are hitting those shots with precision and getting rewarded by the bulls, shooting something like Cam Young last year, this round, Saturday, shot a 64. Let's see. Let me bring up the rounds on my other tab here. Willie Z shot 65. Maverick McNeely shot 65, albeit with a hole-in-one. So obviously a lot of luck went involved to that. Jason Day shot a 65 last year, and he had 7 other players that shot a 67 or better. He also had players like a John Rahm who shot over par. You had a player like a Justin Thomas who shot over par. Xander Schauffele who shot over par last year. So like I said, you have your game here for any sort of moving day. You're usually going to get rewarded for it, but especially so at a course like Torrey Pines, where you have all that undulation, where they can really play into that kind of idea. And just to go through a few specific holes here to show you what I'm talking about. So hole 16 is a par 3. This typically plays over a canyon. So they have this aligned where the tee box that they played for rounds 1 and 2 is actually diagonal. So this little 26 in the bottom left of that 16 box, imagine that the tee box is 200 yards in that direction. Well, what they're doing for this round here on Saturday is the tee box is actually being moved across the canyon. So in this space where, it would be between the tee box and the green here, there's a massive canyon. What they're doing here, at least they did last year for moving day, is they moved it over here so where you're not playing over the canyon, you're just playing over a straight fairway, where like most of the other tee boxes for like the seniors are, the women's tees, so on and so forth, over there to the right, where they don't want them carrying the ball over a canyon. And they play it to a front pin location where there's a massive slope that runs anything long and left back down to the pin. That means you can just aim at the pin. If you end up tugging it, pulling it to the left, a little bit long and left, you're going to hit that slope and it's going to come right back down to the pin. Last year, that par 3 played way easier than it did the other 3 days. And with that pin location is when we saw them move the tee box up. So you're going to see that kind of effect today. I mean, let's look at the par 3 third. So par 3 third is the postage stamp par 3 over there. This played to 145 yards last year. Now the pin location was actually like a middle left as opposed to a back left pin location. So it might play closer to like 150, maybe 152 yards this year. But this, when you have this pin location to the left side, is when they move up the tees once again. So last year, like I said, it played 50, 60 yards shorter. I would expect the same thing for hole number 3. Hole number, I believe it's 8. It's either 7 or 8, whichever one's the par 3, okay? They also made right around 160, 170 yards. I'm pretty sure it's hole number 8 there. Hole 11, you can see it's the back left pin location. There's not really a way to make that one shorter, so that is going to be a tough par 3. And they went over 16 already, right? That's the last par 3 on the docket. They did make that one significantly easier. So if you wanted to take the cumulative par 3 strokes over there on Underdog, I actually don't think it's the worst idea in human history. But that hole number 11, if you end up bogeying that hole, you're screwed. I mean, then that's going to be a really difficult hole. So that's really the only thing that kept me off of it. In general, though, all of this is to say that we want aggressive players that have their ball striking to this point, right? To, with their one shots gained round and at the South course, have gone out there and hit a bunch of greens regulation. Over there in the North course, when we don't have the shots gained metrics, were they able to post a score, right? Are we, seeing a lot of fairways hit, a lot of greens and regulation hit for that player? That's probably the best way to try and find guys that take advantage of this. I mean, like I said, if you have your game, you're going to go low here for Friday. Let's go over there, start with our DFS look. We're going to go through our player poll here for Saturday. Well, I keep calling it Saturday's round. It's so tough with the early start for Friday's round 3. Let's see what's down there in chat. What's going on, Wisco? What's going on, Ghost? You're live for the first time here too. Well, welcome on in. Glad to have you as a part of the fam. If you have any questions at any point, any players you want me to look into, feel free to go ahead and toss them down in chat. What we'll do here is first we're going to go through the fantasy board, just kind of talk through first off the strategy for DFS. Then we're going to go through some of my top plays. And if you have any questions, perfect time to go through players. And then afterwards, we're going to go through prize picks. So if you're looking for any props, that sort of thing here for Friday, that's where we're going to touch on that side. So, if you're new here, just giving you guys a little bit of the rundown of what to expect. What's going on, 3B? Says, what's goody, Lukey? Come on, folks, give this guy a follow, like, and the best golf capper, no doubt. Last part, don't want to speak on, but I appreciate you, man. If you guys do want to hit that like button, feel free to go ahead and do it. Helps me out with growing the channel. Gets the word out there to more people, right? A win-win. I appreciate all you guys. Good streams and videos. Appreciate you. What's going on, Tyler? Everyone loves the swish. Yeah, I tried to make that one a little low-key. Steven says, do you see a backup with Steele or Ryder today? I do. Yeah, we'll talk about that when we go through the strategy section here in a second, particularly when it's a lower tier player that hasn't been there before and you're at an event like the Farmers. That's a pretty big deal. Usually we do see those kind of players back up. So yeah, we'll talk about it. But to answer your question, absolutely I do. Why a Win says, looks like it's set up for a golfer who draws the ball well. Let's look at it. So it's something that I didn't notice at first. Very well could be. So 16's a right pin, but you can start it off the green. There's no trouble there. Let's see. I'm just looking at the right pins because you're right. It's going to be a 50-50 split of middle, right, and center pins. But let's see. The ones to the left side are, you're pretty average. You might be onto something. I'd have to take a look at some of the slopes on holes like 8, 10. I have to take a look at the slope there on 18, for example. But if there's not that much trouble to the right with short siding yourself, you might be onto something there. I'd have to look at it, though. Yeah, the pin location stuff is so nuanced. But you can definitely get an idea for when they're going to make holes easier. And that's what it looks like. What's going on, Voiceless? Love to see you down there. What's going on, Chill Robots? Adrian says, prize picks soon, everyone. Let's catch a bag. Yeah, it'll be fun. We'll get there soon. What's going on, Chris? We have a high Team Soko made the cut. Hey, you got them to the weekend. That's what matters. Who'd you take? So you had SH, Siwoo. You had Sanjay this week. No Tom Kim in the field, obviously. But yeah, I mean, heck. A lot of those guys are like 3-4 under par. So I love it. I'm sipping on some coffee. So it's a Dunkin' Donuts. It's just your regular iced coffee with mocha and cream. So I don't add any sugar to it, right? That mocha syrup that they put in that shit has way too much syrup to begin with. Way too much sugar, I should say, to begin with. But yeah, coffee. It's 10 a.m. for me is super early. I'm usually just waking up here right around 9:30. Fantasy says, what's with these screwed up tee times? No wonder everyone left for live. Yeah, right. Threesomes, right? It was baffling to me. It's not like they have too many players through the cut line. It's like not like they don't have time. Nick says, funny you stayed up till 4 a.m. watching DP. You went to sleep at 8 p.m. and then got up at 2:30. Yeah, that's the pro way to do it, right? Give yourself some sleep, some rest, that kind of thing. Get up. Seeing, first off, Rory McIlroy shoot 4 under par in 3 holes to get the first round leader was crazy. But even crazier was then Patrick Reed probably seeing that on the leaderboard going, okay, well, now I need to eagle the last hole to end up also being the first round leader with them. And then went out there and smacked it in for eagle. So that was ridiculous. Then Ludwig Adberg, who is an amateur, he goes to Texas Tech right now. He's the world number 1 when it comes to like the college rankings. People are expecting him to just be a stud on the PGA Tour. He shot 7 under par in round 1. That kid, I mean, I thought he was going to be good. I actually thought he was a decent play in DFS this week if you're playing on the Euro Tour. But holy shit, like your first time ever playing in a any sort of professional event at a really difficult course and you shoot first round leader 7 under par. Yeah, I wanted to bring that up at some point, but holy smokes. Ray just says Banan. I love Banan. And Semikawa, I love both of them. You guys are onto something there. And Fantasy Dark says Reed should have said Rory Sichi at the Masters dinner. Oh, no, that's right. You weren't invited. Yeah, I think this year Cam Smith is going to end up taking the good old green jacket from Rory. And that's just going to be pure comedic gold when it comes to television out there. Let's get into this player pool now, though. Let's talk through our strategy here for Friday. It's usually the same here, right? Anytime you get a round 3 showdown, most of the ownership's going to go around just a few players towards the middle, the top of the leaderboard. Now, the one exception here, I'd say, would be a John Rahm. You know, he's only -4, which isn't horrible by any means, but he's not up there in like the top 5 of the leaderboard at this point. He's really the only chalky guy that's up there, right? So outside of that, if you're trying to find like true pieces of chalk, a bunch of people are playing a Jason Day. They are playing a Max Homa. Makes sense, right? They're -6 at this point. Towards the 7K range, you have a few guys that are just much higher owned than everybody else. Like a Brendan Steele, he's 15.3%. Ben Griffin, right? He's -5. He's playing extremely well, 13.5%. And then Sam Ryder, who, of course, we got a few questions about already, is there at 16.2%. So overall, you're always going to see a lot of that ownership, clustered behind those players that have played well, which I understand, right? There's a few cases like a Homa, for example, that I'm getting to. A few guys up here in the 8K range where I'm still willing to eat that chalk into Jason Day. But down low, you've got to be kidding me, right? There's a reason why Sam Ryder has never won a tour event before. Or Brendan Steele has really just been dog shit for like the last 6 months. Like he's been making cuts, but he hasn't done anything with them in terms of top finishes. Those sort of players, particularly at a difficult track, they're not guaranteed to, pull back to the field every once in a while. One of those guys goes out there and just has a master class for the week. But I have a hard time expecting that to happen, especially more than like 15, 20% of the time. And if they're going to be 15, 20% owned to DFS, implying that you'd have to play them in 35 to 40% of your lineups, that's just not something I'm willing to do, right? Especially when you have to play them in a higher percentage of your lineups than their hit rate. And that's essentially where you're at with some of those players. Whereas a Max Homa, for example, I'm okay thinking that he has right around a 35, 40% hit rate today. He's a damn good player for a reason. He plays well at difficult courses. Or a Jason Day, right, who has a immaculate track record around this place. If I'm going to take somebody that's going to be slightly higher owned here for round 3, make it a guy towards the middle of the top of the board. That's what I have to say. Like, if you're going to go fishing for chalk, do not do it in the 7K range. Like, sure, Ben Griffin can have another good round today, but he's not twice as likely as a Trey Mullinax to succeed. He's not 1.5 times more likely than, let's see, a Gary Woodland to succeed, or 3 times more likely to succeed than somebody like a Benny Ann, a Emiliano Grillo down there at just 5.5% ownership. That's the idea when it comes to these GPPs. So especially when you're not getting placement points, it's something I want to mention as well. If you've only played round 4 showdown, you may be expecting placement points here for Friday. Not the case, right? When you have a round 3, you're just getting points for your scoring out there, your birdie production, birdie streaks, bogey-free rounds, etc. So all of that leaderboard movement is really only helpful for trying to find the guys that are in form, right? Trying to find the players that are hitting the ball well. But sure, right, they deserve a little boost in terms of their ownership, but not nearly as much as you see reflected in the player poll. So the guys I'm getting to would be like a Tony Finau, a Justin Thomas up top, who are playing okay, especially in terms of their birdie production. A Tony Finau, Justin Thomas are posting plenty of birdies. You've seen a few streaks, actually. I think JT has a streak to this point. Tony Finau may as well, actually, but just can't keep it together with the bogeys. Tony Finau dealing with some driving accuracy issues. Also just can't buy a putt for his life. Missed multiple, at least I think they were like 6-7 foot putts. One of them was like 3 feet and then missing for birdie yesterday. Just has to start to get something to drop. And I kind of called it. I kind of expected this at some point, especially down to the Discord. He's not going to gain 1.1 shots putting forever. Like that. There was a little bit of trepidation on my part for playing Tony Finau this week, and I did. I played him in 40% of my lineups. Just the guy's got to get the damn putter to work, and I did have a little bit of an issue about that going into the week. So maybe I do have to trust my gut a little bit more, but is what it is with Tony Finau. Hopefully he can turn it around and get out of just spinning his wheels. At least he made the cut. JT, on the other hand, he's having issues with the just off the tee accuracy. And at first, it wasn't killing him. I believe through the first 7 holes, he had hit 0 fairways. He was 0 for 7 or like 0 for 6 on fairways at that point, and was 3 or 4 under par. So it was completely getting away with it. And then towards the middle to back end of his round, those misses started to catch up. He was missing in fairway bunkers, had to lay up, was out of position on the par 5s, unable to go out there and score. And by the end, completely gave away all the progress that he made. So JT, I think people will be a little bit scared to get there because of the way that he ended his round. Tony Finau, there's going to be a few people skeptical of him because of that putting, which is why they're only like 17, 18% owned. Getting leverage implies playing like 35, maybe 36% of either player, which is a lot easier for me to get to than playing 70% of somebody like a John Rahm. So up top, I'm taking those shots. Taylor Montgomery is the one guy I'm not playing up here. The reasoning has to be the ball striking. You're getting him at the South Course. I'm expecting it to catch up at some point. But again, this is kind of like somebody I'm willing to be wrong on at this point, because I don't think he's as good as a JT. Like, I don't think it's close, at least right now. I think maybe in like a year or so, he might start getting into that fringe elite tier range. But at this point, as a rookie, right, there's, at least in my opinion, no contest between the two players, between him and somebody like a Tony Finau, and frankly, between him and somebody like a Colin Morikawa or Xander Schauffele. And the ownership numbers are almost identical. So, like, if you're looking for a pivot, you think that Montgomery is going to get you lower ownership? Not really, right? He's actually higher owned than somebody like a Xander Schauffele out there, and also more expensive at this point. So I'll be getting to Morikawa, who yesterday was striking it beautifully, kind of like a Tony Finau, just could not buy a putt for his life. And then Xander Schauffele, who also just could not buy a putt for his life. He was chipping the ball beautifully towards like the middle to first half of his round. He did get into a stretch where he made 3 straight bogeys, so did have that to not, to kind of worry about, but still shot under par. So despite having that stretch of 3 straight bogeys, shot -1, was able to get through the cut line, ended with a birdie with that 30-footer, which ended up screwing me when it came to the prop side. But hey, he's hitting the ball well. You know that he's coming into round 3 with a little bit of optimism. So I like the price tag. He's only $9,500. And because he's -1, no one, I don't want to say no one's playing him, right? Because he's still 18% owned. But that's much lower than he would be if he was even remotely towards contention. If he was like -4, -5 at this point, he'd be like 25, 26% owned. He'd be by and far the second highest owned player on the slate, which is why I see it as such a value here. I'm playing a chalky Max Homa. I'm playing a chalky Jason Day. I talked about it earlier, but they're striping the ball well. Love the golf course. Both are excellent POA putters. If I'm going to play anybody where I have to take like 40, 45% of them, I want them to be 2 of my core picks going into the week and 2 players that are playing well, right? So that's the idea there. I personally won't be fading those 2. But if you do, I get it, right? They're like 20% owned. They're like 22% owned, the highest owned players in that range. But they're not drastically higher owned than all the other guys around them. Nick says, I hope to little baby Jesus that Reed and Rory are paired up for round 3. Me too, especially for round 4. I think that it'd be must-see TV. I'd definitely stay up for that once again. Fantasy says, explain to you why the guys like Semikawa are going off at the last tee time when technically those guys always have the first tee times. Yeah, good question. So they essentially run it from like the middle going outwards whenever they do them off of both tees, because they want, honestly, I don't know why. They could just start at the bottom, right, and send somebody off of 1, send somebody off of 10, right? So like the guys at the bottom. But I guess they want like the guys at the bottom of the board to be playing the back 9 first, and the guys at the top of the board to just be able to play like their round normally, like 1 through 18. So it has to do with the ordering of the holes, where they want the guys that are in contention to only be starting on hole number 1. Because if they did it like that, right, they'd have to start some of the guys that are up there in contention on hole 10, which I guess they just don't want to do. So it's because of that fantasy. It's because of the positioning on the golf course, in trying to prioritize that first half, right? Like starting on hole number 1 for the guys at the top. It's annoying though, especially when it's unnecessary. I don't know why they put him off in threesomes. There's not that many people through the cut line, and they could have started them at like 7 a.m. local time over there, right? And easily fit in the entire round. They're not competing with football today. I don't understand it. And Petrini says, do you have a take on Stevens and Nunez? Yeah, they're the sort of chalky plays where, you're looking at a 6K range golfer that's in contention. That's going to be probably 5 times higher owned than he should be. So if we take a look at their ownership numbers, so Nunez, for example, right, he's 4.8%. Sam Stevens, where's a good old Sam Stevens at? There he is. He's 5.3%. I know it doesn't seem crazy, but he's 5 times higher owned than Adam Schenk. Augusto Nunez is 10 times higher owned than a Paul Haley. So if you're going to take anybody down there in that range, I mentioned those middle to higher tier players, I'm okay taking chalk because they're actually good golfers. Not so much when it comes to these guys at the bottom of the board. They're lower tier guys. They're volatile. Golf's a crazy sport. You'll have guys that go out there, shoot 10, 9 on, 10 under the par one day. They suck, right? The next day go out there, they're shooting 80, that sort of thing. Guys like a Stevens and a Nunez are a lot more likely to do that. So I'm personally not going to be there. Molinax torched the South Course today. Thoughts on him? I love him as a pivot. So I was talking about some of the chalk in that range before and how you could try and get off of it. Molinax is a great pivot off of Ben Griffin. You could take him pivot off of, let's see, like a chalky Brendan Steele, for example. He's got the same kind of upside, if not more, right? He's long off the tee. He's pretty solid around the green. Played well there yesterday in his half, sometimes a third the ownership of some of the guys around him. So love that play in Petrini, especially for these round 3 showdown slates where you get such polarized ownership, where the guys at the top of the board are just getting so much more attention than everybody else when it's not necessarily warranted. What's going on, Tychus? Luke live. Love to see you down there. Hopefully we can cash you out here on Prize Picks today. It'd be pretty sweet. What's going on, Tachi? Tanner says, got any cash tips today? For sure. We'll go after that as soon as we finish up the player poll. We'll go over my top 4 cash plays for sure. I got you, Tanner. I know we got a few cash game I don't even know the word for it, just grinders out there, I guess. It's kind of a grind to play cash games, but definitely the most consistent way to play DFS. I used to be a good old grinder like you out there. Do you like the board today for PP? Yeah, I do. There's a solid like 4 or 5 props I have that haven't been bumped, so we'll touch on those. Most of them birdie props. So yeah, I do like the board. There should be some value with the moving day pins. What's going on? Yeah, you see a Tachi down there, of course. Have I done Prize Picks yet? I have not. I do those at the end of my streams. So we're getting towards the middle to bottom end of the DFS board. I imagine we'll be on Prize Picks in probably like 7 to 10 minutes, something like that. Thoughts on Cameron Champ as a low-owned flyer? I like it. I like it because he's a high birdie percentage player. It's going to be completely unowned, right? 4.9%. And -2 for Cam Champ at a difficult track is really good for him. And a lot of times when we've seen him have these pop performances or out west, he's from out west, Cameron Champ. I believe he's from California. His win over there at the Fortinet was on a half POA surface, right? So not the pure POA that you're going to get here at Torrey Pines. But yeah, I like him, William. It's that aggressive player you're looking for. Mr. Space Lee here. Yeah, you got the whole gang down there in chat. Tanner says it's sickening. Absolutely. Yeah, in cash game. So it's like a 50-50 when it comes to fantasy contests. It's sweaty as fuck. That's all I can say, because you're playing against 50% of the field to double up your money, and everyone plays the same like 6 guys. So it's sweaty as heck. Swisher says, what's up? Official J says, got a new follower from me. How much is the Patreon? $10 a month for the golf stuff. It gets you the DFS and all the Prize Picks posts that I'm putting up. So yeah, check it out if that sounds something you want to do. What's going on, Nod? Love seeing you down there. You're one of the loyal followers down there. Oak says, do you just do PGA and NFL? Yeah, I stick to what I can do best. I've found that specializing is by far the best way to get the best ROI. If you try tackling more than, honestly, at this point, I'm starting to think it's probably 1 sport at a time, 2 at the very most, you're not going to be able to efficiently attack the boards. Like, there's just not enough time in the day to accurately look into all those different sports. So yeah, just do those 2. It's Shoddy from the Discord. Okay. And Adam Lewis says Day or Homa. I'd say Homa. I really like Homa, especially how he striped it yesterday in those windy conditions. I mean, he had that 4 birdie streak. I did not see that happening yesterday in those 30, 40 mile an hour winds. But Max Homa is apparently impenetrable when it comes to the gusts. Another 2K day yesterday on Underdog. Let's get it. Oh yeah, you beat me out there. I need to start insuring my cards, which I did for today. But yesterday I sent her a little too hard. I flew a little bit close to the sun yesterday and got burned up. Darren says, do you think Happy Gilmore can squeeze out 3 birdies today on the back nine? Yeah, I think that Phil Mickelson's probably going to make an albatross. I think that Tom Watson, Seve Ballesteros, probably also going to make like double eagles. Yeah, you're gonna see all those guys go off. All right, let's go over these bottom of the tier options. So where did we leave off? I think towards the 8K range. Yeah, we did. So we talked about J-Day. Hideki Matsuyama, I have to say, the guy's striping it well, just cannot make a putt for his life. He's not the best POA putter. He's also not the worst POA putter in human history. So you can get there. You're definitely bringing on a lot of volatility, bringing a lot of low-end performances into play if you're playing a Hideki Matsuyama, but he's also only 13% owned, which is just slightly higher than a Hadwin. It's significantly lower owned than a Sahith Theegala, for example. So I won't be playing Sahith when it comes to DFS today. I will be playing him over there on Prize Picks. So I still like Sahith here. You can't play everybody in this range, but it's worth noting that he's an inaccurate driver. He tends to deal with issues with accuracy from time to time. And here on Saturday with a tricky moving day pins, I'm a little bit worried about his bogey equity. So I'm just choosing to get to a few other players in that range, but completely understand if you get to Sahith. I'm certainly hoping that he's able to shoot at least -1 today and make 4 birdies. Not to give away too much there. Maverick McNeely, $8,500. I like getting to him. He loves POA. The issue, he had a good day one, had a really shitty day yesterday. He doesn't typically play well in windy conditions. He's got a high ball flight. He's able to feather that ball way up into the air and have it drop softly like a butterfly with sore legs. Can't do that when you're out there playing in super windy conditions, right? You hit it high into the air. If anything, it's going to get blown around sideways, that sort of thing. So now that you have almost dome-like conditions, makes me like Maverick just a little bit more. Taylor Pendrith, lucky he made the cut. I mean, he started horribly. He was like 3 over par through his first 3 holes. I believe bogeyed the first 3 holes, as horrible as that is, then was able to turn it around. Unfortunately, gave away those strokes yesterday. So if you're looking for a player in form, do not play a Pendrith, but that's also why he's only 11% owned at this point. Alex Smalley, another player who's kind of struggled here. So that's why he's only 14.7%. That's actually pretty much right where he was for 4-round contests. And now that you only have, I think it's like 70, like 2 players there after the cut line, it should be a lot higher, right? Most players' ownership go up when it comes to the cut line. Alex Smalley has stayed relatively stagnant. Somebody like Wyndham Clark, $7,800. I like the fact that he's long off the tee and aggressive. I'm also not getting a bunch of ownership. A Dietrich I'm still getting to. Molinax we talked up. All of these guys are they're not chalk in this range, and they're guys more than capable of going out there having a solid day. And Nick Hardy, $7,400. He's got great POA numbers. To this point, has been a little disappointing, but hey, all we got to do is get them to the weekend. Doesn't matter what they've done to this point. They're all more than capable of going out there having a ceiling, particularly guys that like POA and are solid ball strikers, young up-and-coming players like a Nick Hardy. Joseph Bramlett has played really well to this point. The reason why I'm willing to play him is he's still only 5.9% owned. No one ever likes playing Bramlett. He's just kind of like a unsexy name, right? He's not flashy. You don't see him at the top of leaderboards very often, but unbelievably long off the tee. And when his ball striking is there, he hits absolute darts. So, with moving day pins, you're just really looking for somebody that can get hot with the ball striking. And Bramlett can easily do that. Like, it's 5.9% is criminal based on how he's played to this point, because clearly he's been hitting it well over the first 2 days. Benny Ann, same thing, only 7.6%. He's also -4, so hitting the ball well at this point. I know Rajesh brought that up before. There at $7,200. Love the play, especially because he's also not getting a bunch of attention. Grillo, 5.5%. What I like about Grillo is also just very stout off the tee, very accurate off the tee. Also a player that can get hot and just throw darts. So not the best putter, but guys like a Bramlett and Grillo, what you got to like about the bull locations is that everything is going to feed in, right? So when everything's feeding in, they're going to have like at most 10 footers. Even the worst putters on tour are going to make their handful of 10-foot putts. So that's what I like about Griot. Now, if they miss the bulls, God forbid, right? They're going to have a hard time probably getting down in 2 in terms of the putter. But we're looking for ceiling performance, right? We're looking for scoring in bunches, and they can certainly do so. Let's catch up on chat. Yeah, you ensured yours good. Yeah, a lot of people did. I'm just a dummy. But only one person burned on that card. Yep. YAWin says you have a Prize Picks promo code. I'll post it over there in the Discord, YAWin, but not one specifically. I have to use like the bootleg version that everyone else has. Because I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I'm listed as a Prize Picks partner on the Discord, but I don't have a deal with them, so I don't know what that's all about. Adam Lewis says thoughts on going back to Goya Stone Min. Probably not my favorite. He's one of those guys that he's playing well, but I'd rather take the chances on the guys playing well at the middle, the top of the board. These players are due for regression, and Goya, at least before this week, I was under the impression that he's this extremely aggressive high birdie percentage player. His birdie or better percentage was always excellent. He always posted pretty good birdie production, but made a bunch of bogeys. At a difficult track, that's kind of like the opposite of what you want. So I'm personally not going to get there. Even at the Stone Min, he's just getting some ownership. He's getting that 5-6% number where you're going to have to play 12-15% to get that leverage. And I don't think he has that sort of hit rate. Adrian says Flex Friday protected play. That's good to know. Okay. And it's only for a flex play. So keep that in mind, boys. That's on Prize Picks. Clay says, how many 7K guys would you allow in one lineup? 3 at most, probably 2. Yeah, 3 at most, I would say. Unsexy name. Yep. And what about Finau? I do like Finau. Finau's even par at this point, 18% owned. It's kind of like a JT at this point. He's spinning in his wheels out there, just kind of doing his thing. More than capable of going out there having a good round today. In terms of Prize Picks, probably not the worst play either. Yeah, Goya the Painter was aggressive. Hey, Goya's got a sick name. I got to say that too. He's hits the ball like 330 yards too. So the kids got something going for him. But he's a 6K golfer for a reason. Unfortunately for him. All right, we're going to go through some of our cash plays now and then hop right into the Prize Picks board. In terms of your cash plays, I think the no-brainer has to be Jon Rahm, just based on his track record at this course, the ownership we're expecting. In terms of your second man in, you probably want to try and save a little bit of salary. So rather than jamming in like a JT, that sort of thing, I'm probably going to a Max Homa, right? Just skipping the top end to the 9K range. That puts you at $7,400. We probably don't even need an 8K range golfer. I don't think it's as necessary. I'd rather be a little bit more balanced about it. So in terms of like a cash play at the bottom end of the 7, let's see. Probably Benny Ann. Yeah, it's definitely Benny Ann in this range, right? He's -4. He's playing well, has the skill set, the around the green play to keep his round together that we need for a cash lineup. And the ownership's not super high, but it's not non-existent, right? He's probably going to be like 15-20% owned when it comes to these cash contests. So $7,200. Let's add another guy down here. Could be a Hardy. He's a great little idea there. Steal, but let's put Nick Hardy in there. So you can see in terms of the guys in the 7K range that I'm using in cash, I don't have to take Mega Chalk because I want guys that are just fitting the course, that are hitting the ball well. Steele, I really see backing up. I think pressure is going to get to him. Ben Griffin, also not the best player off the tee. So you could get slightly chalkier guys in there, but I'd rather just play the guys that I'm a little bit more confident in here for today's round. So this is the kind of start I'd get to for a cash lineup. You have 75.5 remaining for your last 2 spots. You can mix and match 2 guys in the 7K range pretty easily. If you're looking at like a GPP build, that's where I'm not playing Jon Rahm at all, right? So with that sort of lineup, there's going to be plenty of them starting here in the 9K range, maybe going with like a Morikawa and a Xander. In this 8K range, maybe it's getting to like a Pendy there, looking for some upside. Maybe even jamming in like an Alex Smalley in that lineup. Just taking those pivots, right? We went through them. We just, the last 20, 30 minutes went through all the pivots that we're going to be playing in DFS. But you get the idea, right? Just by avoiding a Jon Rahm up top, it gives you almost all the leverage that you're going to need for these large field contests today. And just hoping that somebody else, right? One of these other elite tier players can outplay a Jon Rahm, which is highly likely to happen. Highly likely to happen here in round 3. Let's hop over to Prize Picks now. We had the Dota board up, League of Legends up, because we are looking for some DNPs. But in terms of your prize picks board, I'll just remind you the weather looks beautiful, right? If you're just hopping in here, you weren't able to catch the report earlier, essentially no wind. 1 to 5 miles an hour throughout the entire day is going to be a little bit cool, but calling for sunny conditions the entire day. So pretty uneventful when it comes to the weather side. Perhaps what was more important and what I did a real deep dive into were these pin locations. And while I'm not going to go hole by hole again, showing you guys some of the opportunities that players will have, 3 out of the 4 par 3s are going to play exceptionally shorter here for Friday's round. Sorry, not Saturday. The early start getting me again. But outside of that, you have those easy par 3s that have been shortened, right? 3 out of the 4 of them. You also have plenty of par 4s that are in bull locations where you have slopes that are allowing players to feed the ball into 2-3 feet at times, or even make eagles from time to time. All of that is going to lead to extra birdie production. So when we take a look at the prize picks board, you might be tempted to go to strokes. What I'd like is just regular birdies are better, because even when guys for rounds 1 and 2 at the South Course were going out there and shooting like 1 under par, sometimes even par, a lot of them were still making 4 birdies. We're still posting birdie production because there are 2 really short par 4s. There are still 4 par 5s on property. It's more than possible to post, like I said, like 4, maybe 5 birdies in your back pocket and have a real shitty round, especially when the players are going to have the risk reward aspect going on, right? When they're hitting the ball into those bulls, they're going to have those 5-footers for birdie. But when they miss the bulls, they're going to be looking at bogey, because those are extremely difficult recovery shots that those players are going to be facing. So, like I said, and remember, I went through some of the leaderboard last year. I'll remind you of that as well, right? Like Willie Z shot a 65. You had a 64 for Cam Young last year. Jason Day took it to 65. Maverick McNeely took it to 65. And then you had the guys like Rom and JT last year on Saturday that completely threw it all away and shot over par. So and the thing is, if you look at JT and Rom's scorecards from that day, they each made like 4 birdies. So they wouldn't have covered their line on here, but even in the shitty performance, we're still posting those birdie production. So that's the idea there. So I'm looking at John Rahm over 4.5. He's playing the best golf of anybody in this field. He loves the course. And based on projection, you would think that he'd be projected higher than everyone else. You take a look at the strokes board. He's almost, look, JT's tied with him, I guess, there at 69.5. But he's far and away the best player, at least in terms of projection for this field. So love him at 4.5. Also like Max Homa at 4.5 birdies. Both of those guys are elite tier birdie makers. And with these moving day pins, I'm expecting them to go out there and be aggressive. Let's see, Jason Day at 4 birdies, I still like. And we had a few bumps here too. So I had Sahith at 4 birdies. They moved it to 4.5. And I also had Luke List at 3.5 birdies, and they moved it up to 4. So obviously, if you're on the Patreon, you would have been able to catch those, but unfortunately, Prize Picks has no backbone. They are soft as hell. Go out there and change their lines just because I enter a few cards. So I guess is what it is, right? If you want access to those before they're being bumped, that's what the Patreon's kind of for there. But I do like Sahith. I had his under strokes, but they unfortunately bumped that too. They had him at 71 strokes, and they now have him at 70.5. To be honest, still don't hate it at 70.5. I'm still pretty confident that he's going to shoot at least 2 under par, but it's not nearly as strong a play as it was before when he was at 71, when he had that push in his back pocket to go off of. If you're looking for anything to add to that, so these 3 would only pay 4x. Just do the 2-leggers, right? So when you put them in a 2-legger, you're not going to get the negative multiplier. You're going to get the full 3x payout there. So if you're just working with these 3 props, right, just enter the 3 combinations, right? The John Rahm and Max Homa one. Go down here, add the John Rahm and Jason Day one, right? The Jason Day and Max Homa, so on and so forth, to make the 3 cards that you're looking for. Or you could play all 3 and then just mix in any other sport, right? So let's just click NBA, click Giannis, right? Obviously, this isn't a play that I'd be using, but find your favorite NBA play, and you get your normal 10x payout, or your normal 5x for a flex and 1.5x for 3. So that's the way that I would handle it. I guess if you're going to try and find a DNP, you could go that direction too, right? So if you didn't want to have to play another sport, just go out there, find a DNP like we were talking about yesterday, go out there, get the same sort of payout. So that's what I would do. Let's see if there's any questions about Prize Picks on there. What's good, bro? You missed yesterday. Nice 6-leg of what you running with. Yeah, so these are the 3 main props I'm running with. Most of the other ones ended up getting bumped, unfortunately. And over there in Underdog, they got bumped too. But yeah, these 3 are the ones that are left that I like the most. Hunter says the Ben Taylor beer fade was a success. Yeah, but you give him a few weeks off, Ben Taylor's going to be a great play. So we'll get back to it, Hunter. You'll have to give me the insight on that. You seem to have a pretty good read on it this week, even as somebody that knew him was able to go out there and fade him. We might be counting on you going forward, Hunter, for the scoop on Ben Taylor. Big J says, can you make it a flex? It's protected today. Yeah, absolutely. So you could just do the 3-leg flex if you wanted to. But what I would probably try to do is maybe add one more, right? Like from another sport. So let's say you have this Joe Burrow prop. I actually haven't even used yet. So like if I wanted to use it here for this, I could add Joe Burrow in there and then try and find a DNP, right? So let's assume that this would be a DNP, right? It's not. I haven't done any research, so don't assume that it is. This sort of card, right, would be like a 5-leg flex that with the DNP would turn into a 4-leg flex, and you can use it for the promo as well. So that's probably what I would do. I haven't used the Joe Burrow free square yet, so I may actually go try and find a DNP after we get off stream here and enter that exact kind of card. But yeah, I'm sure a lot of you out there are playing multiple different sports. If so, just add in your favorite prop or two. And that's a good way to make it a flex play for the promo. Just because I don't want to force in plays here for golf. That's the thing, guys, is like content's great, right? Like people out there, they'll post props every day for content, plays of the day, right? Every single day that they're like so confident in, right? Frankly, there's not a prop every day that I'm playing that I'm like super confident in that I could say is like my play of the day, right? There's some slates where there's only like 2 props that I like. Like, I'm just going to tell you that. Like, I'm not going to try and find 5 props for you because I always find 5 props to play. So, I want to make that clear because like some people ask, they're like, oh, you're only playing 2 props today. It's like, yeah, man, that's all I could find. I know some cappers out there, I'll try and force things in. That's typically when you lower your hit rate. That's the kind of thing that happens. Not till 10:30. Yeah, so don't enter. Well, it is 10:30. It's 10:48. Unless you're talking about a different time zone, you might be. Kyle says, thoughts on Morikawa over 4.5 birdies? Decent. He's kind of like the Max Homas of the world, kind of like the John Rahms of the world. I slightly prefer these two because they're longer off the tee. They should be able to take advantage of those 600-yard par 5s just a little bit more than maybe a Colin Morikawa. But yeah, he's more than capable. Yeah, so I just wanted to make sure it was for Eastern. Yeah, because sometimes people are posting 10:30 and they're Central or something like that. So good. That's good to know. That's good to know. Anyone know a DNP? That's a good question. I'm gonna have to ask down to the Discord here in a second. And Eric says, any plays you like on strokes or birdie matchup? For strokes, I mean, John Rahm, like 69.5, I would take that too. And if you didn't like the 4.5 birdie mark for whatever reason, which I would prefer the birdie mark, but you could take his strokes, but not really. No, the scoring average is going to be like even par at best. I mean, maybe slightly under par scoring average, I would say. And the guys at the bottom of the board are like maybe slightly better than average players. Yeah. So if anything, like I said, go and take the birdies or better board. Like the guys at 4.5 birdies, I would rather take than their number on strokes because I know like 2 under par seems easier than going out there and making 5 birdies, but that's not going to be the case with these pins today. There's going to be a bunch of bogeys made. And sure, you might have that one-off guy that goes out there and shoots like 4 under par with a clean card, but there might be one guy in the entire field that does that. So personally, Eric, I would stick to the birdie side. It's just when you have moving day pins, that's kind of just how that works. He said, Finau is a professional seller. I didn't see you seeing that before. That's funny as hell. He said, fact. Yeah. If you played him yesterday, that had to have been tilting because I didn't have exposure to Finau yesterday, but I watched him on ESPN Plus. And I played him in fantasy, so I was tilting on a whole other different spectrum there. The guy was missing all these 3-foot birdie putts. It's so how I make those. How are you missing those, Tony? You're supposed to be like a good putter these days, too. He said, John Rahm is a professional seller. I don't know about that. Guy's coming in off 2 straight wins. He balled out yesterday. So I don't know if I call him a pro seller. Maybe Tony Finau because the putter has just been ice cold. Joseph says, how does a 0.5 strokes bump affect the probability of a hit? It's a case-by-case basis, Joe. But you're talking about like at least like a 7-8% differential typically. Birdies or better bumps are worth a lot more. So when a birdie or better prop is bumped, it's like a 10 to 11% differential. It depends on the projection and it depends on the player. But yeah, a 0.5 stroke bump is like a 6-7% change. If not higher, sometimes it's closer to like a 9-10% change. So if the hit rate before was like 57%, for example, and then you got that, 10% differential, it could take it from being a plus EV prop to a negative EV prop. So makes a real big deal. Jeff says, subscribe to the Patreon. Do you email the Discord invite? Just shoot me a DM on there and I'll shoot you an invite. I usually post it on there, just in one of the posts. It might end up being expired because usually they're good for like 5 to 10 uses. If that's the case, go ahead and shoot me a DM. Sanjay M missed 2 easy putts too. It's good to know. Where's his he's a 4. He was at 4 birdies last night. So I think he probably missed the ship if you were going to play a Sanjay M. He was at 4 birdies. In fact, actually, when I went to go make my write-up, like go through and make my cards, I was going to go click in Sanjay M at 4 birdies, and he bumped to 4.5. So I chose to go in a few other directions rather than a Sanjay M. But perhaps if you're going to take him, then go over here to strokes. So, unlike some of the other guys at 4.5, he's only at 70.5 strokes. Some of the other guys at like 70 right there at 4.5 birdies. You can see 69.5 for some of the other guys that are at 4.5 birdies. So maybe that's the direction you take, right? Maybe rather than going out there and playing the 4.5 number, you take the strokes board where there should be at least a little bit of value left. You nuked. Love it. What's going on, bag holder? You said, any luck for Xander or JT at 4.5? Kind of like Morikawa, like kind of. I would say Xander and JT more than a Morikawa. So I know before I was talking about how I'm worried about the distance with a Colin Morikawa, not so much with a JT or a Xander, right? They're more than long enough off the tee. Yeah, I mean, I suppose, right? If I like John Rahm, Max Homa, I suppose I would like those two. I'm personally not going to be there myself, but if you played them, you'd have no pushback from me. Sam says you need one more play for a flex. Any leans? Yeah, you could go with the Xander or JT if you wanted to. The 4.5 numbers, those are fine. You could take the Colin Morikawa one if you wanted to. You can go in that direction. Try and find the DNP though. So if you're going to go with the flex, Sam, you're going to get a negative multiplier. Just make sure you go out there and try and find a way to get that DNP. Tyler says, what do you think about a JT versus Sanjay head-to-head or a Homa versus Montgomery one? So let's do them one at a time. JT versus Sanjay, JT all day. He was number 1 in shots gained tee to green in his round at the South Course. Yesterday, tee to green was beautiful, at least on approach. So I would go that direction. And then, yeah, Homa versus Montgomery, I'd also take Homa. Montgomery's ball striking, I think it's a little suspect. At least the GAR numbers are definitely suspect to this point. So I would say Max Homa, just given they're both playing well at this point, just Max Homa a little bit more of a proven prospect. So yeah, I'd go JT and Homa there, boss man. Hopefully that helps there, Tyler. But that is all I've got for this stream. Gonna go out there, get ready to smash here for round 3. I got a few DFS lineups that I gotta keep an eye on, make sure that we're all set on that end. And then of course, trying to keep an eye on that prize pick board. Perhaps we'll get a few bumps, a few things that move in our direction over the last like half an hour to an hour before lock. If so, go ahead and add an extra slip. We'll have to see. But until then, guys, best of luck. I appreciate you guys stopping by, enjoying the stream. Make sure to smash that like button before hopping on out of here. Also, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already so you don't miss any of the content in the future. We'll be going live tomorrow morning, same time, 10 a.m. Eastern time, covering all things for round 4 at the event. So obviously today, hopefully we can make this a great start to the weekend, a little bang out there, whether it's for the props or the DFS side, and add a little bit of extra change to our pocket heading into the weekend, right? Got some stuff to do this weekend. We have football there and Sunday as well. So I'm personally looking forward to it, and hopefully everyone out there can have a fantastic start to their Friday and their weekend as well. So appreciate you guys. We have Adrian says, thanks, man, of course. What's going on, Tanner? Anything else you like on Underdog? If it's posted on my Patreon, I like it, but outside of what's on there, no, lots of bumps. So I'm going to stick with what I've got. But again, guys, I appreciate you. Best of luck, Sam. Best of luck, Tyler. Why I win. Thank you, Jay. Appreciate that. And I will catch you guys for next time. All right. Peace out.